Hey guys, it's Paul Kirch. I'm here with Unfiltered, a marketing and sales discussion. My cohort, Matt Zalewski, will be here in just a few moments. So, anybody want to join in the conversation? Hey, Jaime, I see you out there. Come on in. The water's warm. What's going on? Oh, I see you still loading. All right, so I'm not sure what to do here. It looks like you're stalling out a little bit here. Oh, looks like Matt's just joined. Matt, come on in. Hey,
What's
buddy.
happening?
Not much.
Sorry, I'm running a little late today. What's going on?
Not much. Hey, Jaime Jay is going to be joining us. It looks like he's trying to get in, but his internet must be giving him fits. So, hey, welcome. It's good to connect. So we said, hey, Jaime.
Hey there. Can you hear me?
Oh, man, I can hear you, and you look crystal clear. I'm not sure what's up with that picture, but you look really good.
What's up, Jamie? How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
I'm excited to listen to you guys today.
Oh, very
no,
cool.
we're here to listen to you. Paul didn't tell you. You're on deck. So spread some wisdom. I'm ready. Go for it.
Jaime, your microphone sounds really quiet, so I don't know if you can turn that up at all.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. How's that?
That's perfect. Perfect. Yeah. So, one of the things that Matt's a brilliant copywriter, and he understands. Well, okay, that's a different Matt, not this Matt.
Different guy. He's on tomorrow. Different guy completely.
No, but in all seriousness, though, Matt's a brilliant copywriter, and he truly understands how to draw in viewers, followers, clients, customers, prospects, and a lot of that's done through influence. And one of the things that we want to talk today is about influence. And Jaime, you as the owner of a very successful web development company, I think online marketing, online strategy today requires that we develop copy that really is drawing people in and focuses on influence. I don't know if you've ever taken any formal influence studies or courses, but I teach an influence course. Matt's very studied in this. What do you do in terms of with a web development customer in terms of copy? What do you focus on in terms of trying to draw in an audience?
Well, I try and find people like you and Matt to help me out.
If only that were true.
Good answer. Very good answer.
Yeah, I, for one, am not a good copywriter. I'll be the first to admit it. This is something I think I'm going to continue to always learn more about. I think I think one of the biggest challenges, at least from my perspective, that I've seen is sharing too much information about me or about my services, because I think that people want to know, they have to know what it is that I'm offering in order to make a decision. But at the same time, there's a fine line in there somewhere that I'm still trying to discover to make it more about them, so that they feel, that I care about them, and I want them to, to know that this is going to benefit them without relying on what I'm doing too much.
I think that's the answer. And today, Matt and I've talked about this so much when we've had we do weekly accountability calls, and that's how we started this whole show. But one of the things that comes up time and time again in business today is we still battle up against that old idea of always be closing, that hard pressure sale. And I'm not saying you don't close, you don't ask for the close, but sometimes our first message to somebody is like, buy. Hey, I'm amazing. Check me out. And that's so alienating. We have to find out, how do we attract them, uncover their needs, and then tailor a message that responds to that without being pushy? Matt, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that earlier, you mentioned something about the customer. And I think that whether it's influence or copywriting, it always begins with them. I know a lot of people complain about copywriting or having to write copy, or even advertising slogans, and they complain about the fact that they sit there and they stare at a blank piece of paper, and it's kind of a daunting task. So you have to come up with something. And as soon as I hear that, I immediately know what's going on in their heads, because what they should be doing is basically not staring at a blank sheet of paper trying to find inspiration or something like that. what they should be doing is researching their demographic and research them so much and so effectively that the message essentially pours out of them almost effortlessly. And that's where I think influence really comes in. Once you really understand your demographic, you know where they're coming from, you know where it hurts, what needs to be fixed, what they're running from, what they're running to. Once you're able to identify those things, whether it's writing copy, which is, very kind of non-pushy, or writing some very influential copy that doesn't feel like you're pushing them, that's where the art of the influence comes in. It's all about knowing your demographic. I think that just jumping in and trying to write something for someone that you don't understand will put you in a position where you won't resonate with them. So influence is really, like everything else that we do, it's about the customer. It's not about what I like, or, I may like the color blue, but if I'm writing for an audience that likes purple or red, guess what? I'm going to learn to love purple or red for that session, so that way I can really be in their mindset when reading the message. And that's what you want to think.
So you're saying you're kind of a whore when you need to be mad, right?
Yeah, that's kind of, I don't know. I think I'm I think in a dictionary under whore.
See, Jamie, he's not just a pretty face. I mean, he's a bright guy, but I mean, in the influence course I teach, I work with a company called Sales Training and Results, and they developed this influence course that they've taught for over 20 years. And some of the companies I've worked with, like Fidelity Investments and some other very large companies, and we focus on positive forms of influence. I mean, because there are negative forms of influence, coercion and some other things, but involving, aligning, persuading, exchanging. And when we look at these 4 positive forms of positive influence, I mean, involving is the idea of, let's say you're in a group setting or a meeting, or you're working with some people that you want to get them involved in the process. You have to really focus on finding out what their needs are and really find out how you can serve them. And if you're thinking about aligning, if I'm trying to get aligned with Matt, I want to get on the same page with Matt. So I'm going to say things that I think Matt is going to resonate with, and all of a sudden he's going to go, oh yeah, that's really cool. I'm excited about this. And I think, these are things that sometimes we overlook when we're writing web copy and online copy. Persuasion is the art of really trying to convince somebody. And I think persuasion is tough. I mean, persuasion can result in somebody being totally on board, but a lot of times the best result out of persuasion is compliance. Because if I try and convince you, Jamie, to do something, and it's not really in your interest level, or you're not really super excited about it, but you're going to do it anyway because I want to help Paul out, or I should do that. Your passion's not there. You're not excited about it. So you might comply, but are you totally on board? And, the same is true with exchanging. It's like I might say, okay, you do this for me, and I'm going to help you out. I'm going to write some copy for you, or I'm going to take some of those things off your plate. And so this happens within companies, but I think it also happens a lot out in the sales world. And when we're trying to convince people that, hey, I'm a great guy. You should work with me. You should hire me. But if we don't understand what we're doing, we're just having a dialogue that sometimes doesn't lead us anywhere. So if I know that I can get Matt on the same page with me, I'm going to focus on alignment. But if that's not working, I'm going to shift gears and try a different strategy.
You can't, Paul. That could never happen.
It's never happened. We're talking about a different Matt again, remember? That good copywriter.
That's blue versus purple.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Blue versus purple. But Paul, you make a really, really good point. I think that to follow up on that, as usual,
if only that were true.
I do admit, Paul, if only that were true. I think that people look at copy and look at influence in terms of trying to force someone. And I think that if they start looking at influence as creating compelling arguments where the individual takes themselves through a process and basically convinces themselves to make the purchase, it's a lot more meaningful to the individual. They don't feel like they're being pushed, and it's actually a lot easier to do than to be pushy.
Matt, your
providing that you,
connection's breaking up
that
there,
you
buddy.
Understand demographic.
Yeah,
it is. It looks good from here.
It was breaking up.
What'd
a little
you miss?
bit.
Yeah, try that again. Go back and say that wisdom again.
I forgot what I said. It's over. No, can't say it anymore. No. I'm just saying, if you want to look at, if instead of trying to influence individuals, you should try to compel them into arriving at a certain conclusion And that decision arrived internally is a lot more powerful than someone standing behind you poking you with a stick to say bye. And I think that aggressive, always be closing type of attitude, not that closing is a bad thing, closing is a necessary thing, but I think that if you're always trying to prod someone toward that close in a very aggressive way, you are going to turn
think
them
about
off,
Jeffrey Gitomer. One of my favorite statements I've ever heard in relation to sales is he says that people hate to be sold, but they love to buy. And I love that message because it is so true. And if we focus on that, I mean, I've adopted that throughout my whole sales career. And as a sales coach, I focus on helping people understand that if we're selling, often we're alienating. If we're, getting to learn what their needs are, providing solutions. This is why being a service provider versus a solution provider, two different things. You can provide a service, but solutions are really about there to solve problems. And if we focus on earning trust and building rapport and then providing real solutions, that's how you build a business. And that's how you generate business today. People are just too educated and they have too much knowledge available to them with Google and other things. A lot of the BS that used to work and a lot of things that, the high pressure sales sitting around a kitchen table telling them that, oh gosh, little Timmy's going to be, what are you going to do if you die and little Timmy's left all alone? I mean, those things, they just turn people off today. So.
Sure. So Jaime, why don't you give us your take in terms of influence and design? How have things changed in the last 5 years or so, or even in the last decade?
Oh, Jaime, we lost you.
How about that? Is that better?
Lost your audio.
I think what happened is in probably the last 5 to 10 years, in my opinion, for however much weight that carries. But I think what you'll see is it went from a really hypey type environment. We're talking online, right? Are we talking online?
Sure.
Yeah. So I think it went from a real hypey kind of, long sales page, just, buy now and you're going to get this and wait, but you're going to get more. And it's not going to be $12.97. It's not going to be $9.97. It's only going to be $57 if you buy the next 5, and it was really hypey and people were into that because it was new. And then people got overloaded with that because usually on just about every medium, the marketers get a hold of it and they come and then it just turns into a big old sales, ball. And it just, that hypiness really wore down on people. And then now I think it's kind of transitioned into, much like the Google algorithm now, into more content savvy style, just pushing out content and building a platform that you can be an authority on, to where you're just pushing out content all the time. And hardly ever, in my opinion, should you be selling. I think you should be, I don't even believe in that 80-20 rule. I think it's like maybe 97-3 rule, something like that, where you're just pushing out, and as far as copywriting is concerned, again, you guys are the experts on that. I can't comment to that. But as far as pushing out content, now, content is king, but good quality content is the king of kings. And I think if you can show how to do certain things, and it could be small things, it could be big things, but the more often you deliver content like that, in my opinion, I think is where we are kind of right now, because it's going to push through all the noise. I think right now people are posting, oh, hey, I just made, $500 on a $20 investment. Click here to learn more. Well, that's content, but that's not really content.
Wait, yeah. Can you send me that link?
Yeah, it works. It works almost.
I'm kind of.
Yeah, you see how
Matt,
I
I've got one
where do I pay?
Spend $500 and you're going to make $20. Is that?
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh, that's even better. I think on a Friday I could do the
nice
reverse math.
I
could see the magic in that.
Yeah, Jimmy, you bring up a really good point. I mean, the long form sales letter. I mean, I still see it, and I actually see some of the experts out there saying still use it. But what you notice they've all gone to is they generally have some sort of video that you can watch or listen to, or you can go through the long form content. But no matter what, that long form content really better focus on getting to the point quicker. And Matt does something really interesting, and Matt, I hope I'm not spilling the beans here, but he does some really cool things on a webinar where he'll actually throw out up front, this is what this is going to cost if you want to be a part of this program. And then he jumps into the content. Now, of course, there's an intro. And the interesting thing about that is it takes away that kind of like, okay, I know there's a sales pitch. What's it going to be? What's it going to be? And it gets the tire kickers out of the way early. And so, I mean, I think there's some really interesting things that people are doing out there, really focusing on really more of a genuine, honest message and getting to the point quicker.
Yeah, and if I can jump in real fast again before you answer that, Matt, I think that's really, really good idea. It's a no BS type approach. You're letting people know you're doing it through transparency. As cliche as transparency that word has become, it's it's a good good rule of thumb to live by. Alex Mendoza, and I'm not sure if you know who he is, pretty successful guy, took his business online, but he point blank told everybody, he's like, hey, my goal is to sell a product, this many months down the road. I'm just letting you guys know that right now. That's my goal, but I want to build value during the time that I'm promoting all this.
And that's hilarious. I actually have heard him say that, and he even really goes as far as to say, look, because you sign up with me now, you're going to be getting all this great stuff, but just know that come whatever, March or whatever, he's going to be rolling out a program, and he doesn't hide that. And I think that's really cool. And, then if anybody complains about it at that point.
But people know that already.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, Paul, but people, we were having a conversation last week, and
Mark's trying.
Kind of talking about
his hardest to get on. Come on, Mark, you can do it.
Hold on, Mark.
No, go ahead, Matt.
See. Well, I don't know. I forgot what I was talking about. You know how this goes. You stop me, it's over. You got to press the reset button. I'm kidding. No, but we were talking about you don't have to convince people to buy. We live in a society and a consumer culture, and the cultural operating system that we function under, or that most people function under, is that they're going to be buying stuff. I'm going to buy stuff. You're going to buy stuff. We already know this. The question is, what are we going to buy in those particular categories? So trying to really hard to convince people to buy is really kind of a waste of time, and it turns a lot of people off, versus focusing on what they're going to get once they purchase your product or your service, and focusing on the benefit to them. Because ultimately, let's face it, our customers don't give two what about us. They want results, and they care about themselves, as they should. So for us to push the sale is inevitable. They know it's coming. They certainly want a certain amount of theater around it, but they don't want to feel like they're being sold. They just want to enjoy the purchasing, the buying experience.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, while teaching them and while being completely non-douchebag like, and provide them with transparency in the most literal sense, where I'm going to want some of you as my customers, not all of you, because number one, I can't work with all of you, and number two, some of you are just not going to be a good fit, right? So what's wrong with saying, here's how much it costs and here's what you're going to get? I find that when you do that, people are able to pay more attention to your message, because they're not thinking, well, this sounds good, but can I buy it? Should I buy it? Once the price is up front, as they go through the material that you're providing, they're collecting basically pros and cons, right? So they're looking at, okay, if this costs X amount of dollars and I can do 3 out of the 5 things that the product or service provides, then that makes sense. So they're running a mental equation in their head. They're doing the math the whole time. It actually makes sense to provide the price up front, and then removing all that drama and all that posturing out of the way. And simply, it enables a better delivery of content. And that content is better retained by the individual who's aware of the fact that you are trying to sell them ultimately. Yeah. And they know how much it is. So, a lot of people don't do it that way, and they follow along in that, kind of tired old model. And I think the customers are getting tired of that too. They're like, okay, I know you're gonna drop the price on me. Why not just get it out of the way and let's be adults?
Yeah, well, it's like the idea of doing something like that and split testing it. If you're questioning the methodology, you're questioning the mindset, split test it. Run a webinar with one group, price up front, run another webinar with the old model that we're used to, price at the back end, see which one performs better. And, I just think there's something said about disclosure and not wasting people's times, because Matt's got his approach is not to go after this huge wide audience, Jaime. He wants a really kind of a focused set of buyers. So he's able to do that. The guy that's out there building the model where he wants, everybody and their dog to be a part of his program, and he's trying to sell it for $25 or $99. I mean, that's a different model. But no matter what, I think there's something to be said about just being honest with people.
Right. But I think that for me, it works because I know my demographic. So I know that they're short on time, they want results quickly, and they just want to get to it. The theater for my demographic doesn't have to be as elaborate as the theater for other demographics. But in your particular demographic, maybe more theater is involved because, as we discussed last week, marketing is theater. It doesn't mean that it has to be false or something that's untrue. It just means that, some people like a little more show. That's all. And you got to figure out how much show to provide your demographic. So I think that, there's so little when it comes to influence, which is still the focal point of this conversation, is that influence is really the result of very effective influence is the result of effective research of your demographic and understanding them.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about neural linguistic programming and how that ties into the influence model. And there's obviously some other practices out there. How is NLP fitting into influence? Or are they just really looked at as a separate science?
Well, I think NLP is really just a very specific science and study of language and how people perceive words and meaning and symbols, right? So if you look at NLP, if you can work NLP into your message and it's congruent with what you're trying to say, it's going to make your message that much more effective. NLP is a very deep subject, but I think that one of the quick takeaways that you can take away from this conversation is the fact that if you can put something as simple as embedded commands into your narrative, the individual listening will be prompted, if they're open, to act on that. So, if you buy now, stuff like that, it sounds very cliche, but if you put that into the title of your product or you work it into the narrative at some point, that is a command statement, right? So that will force an individual to at least consider for a moment that purchase decision or that action, even if it's voluntarily or involuntarily. Just like if I were to say, don't think about elephants. First thing you did, you thought about elephants.
I didn't, because I know that. I was thinking about something else.
I know.
I was thinking about rhinoceroses.
Damn it.
He's trying to figure out how to spell
Jamie
that.
Can't be on the show anymore. He just up.
Jamie plays a lot of hockey. He's been hit with a lot of pucks through the years, Matt, so you have to forgive him.
I was thinking of elephants, actually.
Right, but it's like anything else, it's just questions, interjected appropriately into the copy or narrative or conversation can be very powerful. But again, it's just, think of NLP as a seasoning, right? It's like cayenne pepper. You're not going to eat it by the spoonful, but if you put it on your dish in appropriate amounts, it makes the whole experience much more effective and much more enjoyable. So it's something that you sprinkle in. If you put in too much, you're going to sound like a dick. But if you don't put enough, you're going to have less effectiveness. But again, even NLP, it's all focused on your demographic, understanding what they're used to hearing, their linguistic patterns, and so on and so forth. Without those things, writing copy for the masses, or, there's a lot of people that talk about swipe copy and stuff like that. And that's cool, but, it's kind of it's generic. It's like sending your message via a very generic envelope to someone's home. It's going to go straight into the trash. So take an extra 2 hours to research your demographic and do it effectively, and then write your code, and then think about influence. Yeah. Don't think about influence and write code and then think about your demographic. That's the wrong sequence.
I've never been a fan of swipe copy, and here's why. Because I feel that if I have to take swipe copy and try and tailor it to my audience, I'm basically going to end up rewriting it anyway. I mean, there are some things you might get out of a swipe copy. Like Frank Kern might share some swipe copy. You're going to go, wow, that's powerful stuff as a starting platform. But by the time you're done, you basically had to recreate it anyway. Otherwise, it just seems like someone else's message.
Well, here's the thing about swipe copy. I think that we should just remove the S and just call it wipe copy, because that's really what it is, right? I mean, just get it out of the way. It's, copywriting does not have to be difficult. It's not, there's a science to it and there's a certain amount of knowledge you have to have. But I think that even if you truly understand your demographic and you're just being genuine, you will be able to write some copy. It doesn't mean that it's going to immediately accomplish what you want it to accomplish, but you'll be well on your road in terms of split testing and basically doing some course correction to where you'll be able to arrive at something, as long as you're genuine, because people pick up on that. They want people who are genuine with them. They don't stand for that flashy kind of buy now or tomorrow, the copy of this PDF will be gone because we only have, X
well,
amount,
I'll tell you,
right?
there's a reason I asked Jamie in here today. I said, Jamie, come on and join us, because he's a bright guy, but genuine. You are every bit as genuine as you seem. It's funny. I listened to his podcast show, and you could listen to his podcast show and have a conversation with Jamie. It's the same guy, and there's no fluff. There's no BS. It's like, he's got the same sense of humor and the same way. But I think that shines through, and I think there needs to be more people out there. I think we all create a persona sometimes. We get behind a microphone or in front of a camera, and all of a sudden we become a different person. When we label something, you think about the idea of podcasting. Okay, so I could interview somebody, just, hey, Matt, let's have a conversation. And then all of a sudden you label it as podcasting, and people start to get really nervous, or they sound different and they act different, and they come across not engaging at all. And I think sometimes we just need to get back to just being people and being genuine and just being ourselves.
I think there's a larger breakdown in society, not just when it comes to marketing. Marketing is just one of the symptoms and components of the official paradigm kind of breaking down, where you notice where certain demographics don't watch the news anymore. They really don't trust what they're being told. They adopt a trust but verify model sort of thing. So marketing is going to be influenced by that. And, what Jamie said earlier about, all that hypiness that was around 5-10 years ago, it's gone because people are no longer tolerating that bullshit. They want genuine products and services that are going to help them, and they're not going to put up with unnecessary crap that's going to waste your time. So, aligning yourself up with what people want, if you want to be in business for a long time, probably a good idea. So that's not brain surgery. But then again, in certain ways, sometimes the simplest things are not considered. So I think being genuine moving forward, that's the big, here's the takeaway, Paul. You want to be influential? Be genuine.
Wow.
There you go.
Why didn't you just say that? We could have been done 25 minutes.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
I just dropped the mic. Did you hear it? Where's the mic drop?
25. We wasted 25 minutes. If you'd have just said that at the beginning of this, we would be done. All these people over there would be like, "Oh my God, I can go home and rest now."
I got to see if I can pull this off. It might be a little bit late, but I'm going to see if I can.
All right, yeah, do it. Oh, he's gone.
You might have to go to the bathroom. No, seriously, man. It's a great topic, and it's one I love. When I first learned about influence as a study and as a program, and when I first had the opportunity to teach it, it's like I was really blown away how simple it is and how complex it is all at once. And the complexity comes in because we sometimes become our own worst enemy, and we don't just really break it down to the lowest common denominator of how we want to engage somebody. And I think the bigger struggle that a lot of people have is they go down a rabbit hole and they have no outs. It's like, okay, you're trying to persuade somebody, and you start with persuasion, and you're trying to convince them, and you don't find a way to get them on board, and then you don't shift gears. It's just like in sales. If I've got somebody who's not responding to my messaging and I really want to do business with them, I've got to find another way to engage and connect with them. And so I'll take people that are non-responsive, people that I want to do business with, and I'll find ways to, I'll make introductions. Hey, I want to introduce you to Matt Zalewski. He's this great guy. Or I'll find ways to show value to them without them ever having to buy from me, and not a sales pitch. And all of a sudden, those same people that had no interest in me over time start to I don't want to call it wearing down because that sounds so negative, but they start to warm up. And I'll give an example. So I had a client that was on the West Coast years ago, and I would send them articles. They do market research in the religious space, and they deal with churches and a lot of other organizations. And I would send them articles I would find on studies and white papers and things. They would never respond. And I thought, why am I wasting my time with these guys? But I know there's a lot of business there. One day I was talking to he's now president. At the time, he was one of the project managers. He said, by the way, Paul, he goes, I want to tell you something. He goes, we haven't told you this, but all those articles you send us and all those things you send us go into a file that we keep in a folder in our filing cabinet. And when we're writing articles or we're presenting at events or doing, even some of our books we've written, we'll reference some of that stuff you've sent us. And, no one else does that. And at that point, I was like, had this big light bulb that popped on. I'm like, that's the secret to really taking somebody who's non-responsive, because a lack of response does not equal a lack of interest. And I think that's the problem most people face today, is that somebody tells you no once, you walk away, or if they don't respond to your request, you walk away. And most salespeople only try 3 times to reach people. I mean, if you look at the statistics, 3 to 5 times is what most salespeople do. Well, most sales occur between the 5th and 12th outreach. So if you're trying 3 times, you're not getting as much sales activity as you could. And I think we fall into this trap of thinking, well, they didn't respond, they must not be interested. But my God, think about yourself. How busy are you when emails come in? If you don't think right now to respond to a request and you go, I'm going to do that later, well, later comes, you've gotten 30 other emails, that later doesn't happen. And so if I give up on you, I'm never going to get your business.
That's very true. And the same application or the same metrics can be applied to lists. Let's say you've got an email list.
Yeah.
If you've been in business for more than 5 minutes online, you know that a majority of your money is going to be made in the 80% of the list that's not immediately responsive, right? You're going to make your initial sales, but if you don't effectively follow up, there's a reason they didn't follow up. So given the way that we can use dynamic response marketing in a sense of where you can use responders based on their behavior, where they go, what they click, how long did they watch the video for, and so on and so forth. You can tailor an almost individual experience for that prospect and make them feel like that you're really kind of, it may sound creepy, but you're kind of following them along. You're kind of following what they do, but you're not doing it to be creepy. You're doing it to respond in a way that it's going to be interesting to them. And I think that in the end, they're much more receptive to it when they didn't show up to your webinar, but you still followed up with something. And then finally you provided them with a video or content that clicked. They read it all, they watched it all, and they followed up by signing up for maybe a webinar that's got a different subject matter or something to that effect. And all of a sudden you've got an interested prospect, where if you were just to walk away from that, you're leaving 80% of the money on the table when you don't take care of your list. But I think that you have to approach them by saying, okay, so that last thing, maybe you didn't have time, here's a reminder, but let's say this new thing is you didn't respond the first time because the subject matter wasn't quite on target. How about this? And you just keep doing it. And along the way, you're accomplishing 2 things. You're narrowing in on what's going to get them interested or what they're interested in, but you're also building value because you're providing information that's beneficial to them. So the content is beneficial. You're drawing metrics from their behavior, which makes you better able to respond accordingly to their behavior later on. So they win, you win, and no one has to be a douchebag along the way.
I love it. No one has to be a douchebag. That is the motto for this whole show. No one has to be.
That's right.
We have the opportunity to be, but we do not have to be. In all seriousness, though, guys, it's been fun. Unfiltered is really just Matt and I host a call for each other weekly where we do a little accountability. And we said, you know what? Let's just take our conversations we have and put them up here on Blab and have fun with it. And so, Jaime, we really appreciate you joining in the conversation.
Oh, thanks to both of you. You guys are pretty intelligent couple there. Yeah, thanks for.
We're not a couple, but I can see how you would think we might be.
Not that
I'm working towards his hairstyle. I'm getting there.
Can't, dude. You can't have this.
I used to date a girl who told me I had a 5 head, and I was so offended. But now I actually embrace that. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, this
It
was
was
fun.
a pleasure.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks so much, and thanks for everyone who came in. Mark, next time, join us. We'd love to have you on. I'm not sure what was happening there, but guys, have an amazing weekend. Once again, this is Unfiltered. I'm Paul Kirch, host of Boss Academy Radio. Matt Zalewski, who is the founder of Perception Management Bureau. Check us out. We're out on Twitter, out on Facebook, everywhere. So thanks so much. Take care, guys.
All right, have
You
a
too.
great weekend, guys.
It was nice meeting you.